Hi students, here 6th class 4th chapter, sorting materials into groups. Sorting materials into groups. Okay, here water in the human body dissolves many substances. Okay students, you see in our previous class already we discussed that water dissolves some substances, so that's why that substances are called as soluble substances. The substances which can dissolve in water are called as soluble substances. For example, sugar and salt. Sugar and salt dissolved in the water, so that's why those are called as soluble substances. Okay, chalk powder, raw dust, sawdust, and next sand, those they don't dissolve in water, so that's why those are called as insoluble substances. Those they don't dissolve in water, so that's why those are called as insoluble substances. So here like that water can dissolve some substances. Okay, so here water in the human body dissolves many substances. Okay, in our body also, our body contains 60% of water. 60% of our body contains water only. Okay, 60% of our body contains water. Okay, so remaining 40% only all the organs and all the parts are there. So here 60% of our body contains water. Okay, what is the use of that water which is inside our body? So the water in our body can dissolve many substances. Water can save our body, water can protect our body, water can dissolve many substances in it. Okay, so here for example students, 60% of the human body is water. Okay, so the brain and heart are composed of 73% of water. 73% of water is there in the brain and heart. Next, lungs 83% water. Lungs 83% of water is there in the lungs, and the skin in the skin also 64% of water is there. Muscles and the kidneys 79% of water is there. 79% of water. Next, bones 31% of water is there. Bones 31% of water. So like that students, water is the water plays main role in our body also. So here, so as we discussed, water can dissolve some substances. Sugar dissolves in water. Sugar is called as soluble substance. Salt dissolves in water. Salt is called as soluble substance. Sawdust, it doesn't dissolve in water, so that's why it is insoluble substance. Sand, so sand, it doesn't dissolve in water, so that's why sand is also called as a insoluble substance. Okay, so next one, chalk powder. Chalk powder also, it doesn't dissolve. It doesn't dissolve. Of course it mixes with the water, but it stays at the bottom of the container. Okay, so that's why chalk powder also so it is called as it doesn't disappear. Okay, it appears inside the water, but in the case of sugar, you take sugar, when sugar is added in the water, sugar cannot be seen. We can't see the sugar inside the water. Sugar disappears. When sugar is added in the water, sugar disappears. Okay, so that's why it is called a soluble substance. Next one, you take salt. Whenever salt is added, salt also disappears. We can't see salt inside the water. Okay, salt disappears inside the water. Okay, next you take chalk powder. When chalk powder is mixed in the water, chalk powder is visible. Chalk powder can be seen. We can see the chalk powder inside the water. So here chalk powder doesn't disappear. Chalk powder doesn't disappear inside the water like salt and sugar. Okay, salt disappears in the water and sugar disappears in the water. That's why only salt and sugar are called as soluble substances. But in the case of chalk powder, sawdust and sand, those they don't disappear, they appear inside the water. Chalk powder, sawdust and sand, they appear inside the water, so those are called as insoluble substances. Okay, they don't disappear inside the waters, they appear inside the water, so that's why they are called as insoluble substances. Okay, so like this, how water, water can dissolve some substances like sugar and salt. In the same manner, our body also contains 70%, 60% of water is there in our body. That water which is inside our body will help us, will protect our body. How it protects? It dissolves many bad substances in our body. It dissolves many bad substances in our body. Many poisonous substances in our body. Many poisonous substances can be dissolved inside the water. So that is the use of the water which is inside our body. Okay. So as we discussed, brain and heart are composed of 73% of water. 83% of water is there in lungs. 64% of water is there in skin, and 79% of water is there in muscles and kidneys. 31% of water is there in bones. Okay.